Welcome everybody. My name is Zeb Wellborn with the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank you for coming to attend today on our Chino Valley Leaders on the Coronavirus webinar. We've compiled a group of leaders across the Chino Valley to come and educate our businesses on what is happening with businesses in particular in the Chino Valley, but also what's happening in our community. This is a great opportunity to use the chat feature to connect with the other folks that are involved. I know that we have other agencies that are also represented here. So we have folks from the city of Chino, we have folks from the BIA, we have folks from the Chino Valley Fire, we have folks from Chino Hills, the city of Chino Hills, we have somebody from the Inland Empire Utilities Agency, we have somebody from the Chino Hills Police Department, and we have somebody from the Census Bureau. So we have all these folks that are also attending in our attendees section of this webinar to get insights and share insights as well. So they'll be sharing those in our chat feature. So make sure you pay attention to those. I also just posted this on our Facebook page. So it's Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce is the Facebook page. It's a live feed, so you're welcome to share that. I'd encourage you to share that with your audience to let people know that we're hosting this webinar with our community as well. With that, I want to thank our panelists for coming on today to provide their insights into this. This is a great opportunity to ask questions to these folks. They may or may not have the answers for you, but at the very least, we'll be able to start a process to help you get the answers to those questions if we don't know it. And if we do, we'll be able to help you out with those. So again, thank you guys for coming on and doing this. So first up on our agenda is we have Chino Police Chief Wes Simmons. Chief, are you ready?
I'm ready, Zeb. Thank you again for inviting me to be a part of this, and wanted to thank everybody for joining us. Just a couple of things to start off with. So currently there is 77 positive cases that are related to the city of Chino, but I think it's important to note that 64 of those cases come out of the men's prison. Obviously, those people they're taking care of those who are in custody there, making sure that they're getting the proper treatment, but those people are secure and are not out as part of our general population. We're excited to announce on Friday that the city of Chino will be hosting its first drive-through testing in conjunction with the county. That's going to take place at Ayala Park from 10 to 2 on Friday. It's going to be by appointment only. That's the way the county has been doing this across the county, and the appointments will not be available until Thursday. So go to sbcovid.com, the county website there, and you'll be able to make an appointment for those. You have to answer some questions regarding symptomology, and then you'll be able to get a time, and we ask that you show up within 30 minutes of that time. We'll have a line of cars that will wrap around Ayala Park. It will start at College Park, and Central Avenue will be where people who have an appointment can enter that line. And again, I ask that you show up just 30 minutes prior to your appointment. They will stay as long as necessary to get everybody who has an appointment tested, but it's going to be extremely hot on Friday. So we don't want people to be sitting in these cars out there in the hot sun. So that will be on Friday, and more information will be coming out related to that. In regards to our parks, I want to just encourage people that our parks do remain open, but the parking lots are closed. So if you go and use the parks, just make sure you maintain good social distance, but you can go to the parks, get out and walk, do some of those exercises. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to touch on is last week the state had put out what they're calling $0 bail in the midst of this crisis. So from now until 90 days after the governor releases the emergency order, there is a $0 bail for all misdemeanors and most felonies, which means if somebody is arrested, they will be released without bail unless a bail enhancement can be obtained. This, of course, does not help us when we're trying to keep our business community safe. And both Sheriff John McMahon and District Attorney Jason Anderson have spoken out against this $0 bail. Both have stated that the county is not in crisis when it comes to the county jails related to COVID-19. They're able to house criminals who are committing crime. And this is unnecessary, at least for San Bernardino County. But I want to assure, especially the business community, that if they become victimized, let us know. We are still taking action, and we will arrest people and do our best to keep them in custody. Obviously, if it's a violent crime, we can ask for no bail in that instance. But property crimes, at least we can identify those people, get them into custody, get them fingerprinted, and encourage them not to come back and victimize our community. And just in regards to that, we are seeing crime out there, but in general, our calls for service are down. I think part of that is because a lot of people are home, and so they're calling and reporting on suspicious activity. And again, we just encourage you to do that. If you have a business that is not currently open, but has a storefront, please let us know, and we can make sure that we'll extra patrol that location as well. And I encourage you guys to report any suspicious activity. So that's what I wanted to share today, Zeb. And of course, I'm available if anybody has any questions for me. You're on mute there, Zeb.
Thank you. I've done enough of these. I figured that out. So I want to thank you, Chief, for coming on and giving that update. This is a great opportunity to ask questions. So if you do go into the chat feature, feel free to ask those questions. Chief, what's kind of the biggest thing that's happened over the last week for you guys? Has there been any changes, or has it been pretty much the same?
No, it's been pretty much status quo. We are still seeing a lot of calls related to mental health issues, and we are seeing more people out on the roadways. Again, I understand that people got to go out there and handle their essential duties, but make sure that you're abiding by the speed limits and driving carefully, because we are out there.
And then we had a question from Jim that says, accidents are down in the state. Is that the case in our area?
Overall, they are. We still are seeing higher speeds, but which have related to a couple of significant accidents. But in general, accidents are down.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Chief. Thank you for coming on and giving that updates, and we really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you all. Enjoy.
All right.
Thank you, Wes.
Bye. All right. Next up on our list, and then let me just give another brief reminder for those of you that joined since we got started. Feel free to use the chat box to ask questions, connect with each other in the chat. Also, we posted this on Facebook Live, so share it out on Facebook if you can. Our Facebook page is Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce, and we'd appreciate that. So next up on our panelist list is we have from the Chairman of the Board of County Supervisors, Curt Hagman's office, we have Peter Rogers. So Peter, take it away.
Great, Zeb. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. This is my third visit. Curt is everywhere right now. He's on an online meeting with, I think, SCAG right now. He's just all over the place. He's doing it safely. But Curt is definitely the face right now of the county. He's delivering masks, he's delivering sanitizers, he's in meetings everywhere. So he apologizes for not being here this time. Maybe he'll be here next week. If not, I'll be that person. But wanted to thank you again for hosting this, Zeb. It's been a great resource for the Chino Valley. Okay, just some county statistics. Wes mentioned a couple, but I'm going to repeat those. Just wanted to start out, the website that you can go to for all things that are published, or most things that are published with the county, is a special site, and I've got it on my other screen here. I'll give you the address because it was a little bit misspoken a few moments ago. It's sbcovid19.com. If you go to sbcovid19.com, it's a dashboard, it's news releases, it's stats, and it talks about the drive-through testing opportunities, where they're at, when they're at, how to go about signing up if you have the need to be tested. It was relaunched over the weekend with a new and improved site. Obviously, everybody's catching up on these things, and the county's the same. So the dashboard is very intuitive. It's updated daily, I believe, at 5 o'clock. And we also have a hotline that they started weeks ago at the Government Center in San Bernardino. And that hotline is where we've been sending a number of people from this office, from Curt's district office here in Chino Hills. When we can't answer the question, those individuals have information above and beyond what we tend to have here in this office. The hotline number is 909-387-3911. 387-3911. And they've got a number of personnel at this center that will answer your questions, take notes. We've had a number of people call this office pointing the finger at others that aren't following the rules. Well, we can't do anything about it, but we have them call the hotline, and if the hotline passes the information on to the sheriffs or to whoever, you know, we'll see what happens with that information. But that's what we have now. Statistics. If you go on the COVID-19 SBCovid19.com site, you'll see these same stats that I'm about to read. But I'll just read them because everybody's interested in numbers, and those numbers are going to drive other decisions later. Patients tested so far in San Bernardino County, and these are either through the test sites or through doctors. When you've gone to your own individual healthcare provider, these stats go into the county stats. 13,438 as of yesterday's posting at 5 o'clock. Documented cases of the virus, 1,406, which is approximately 10% of those tested. 14 or 10.6 or 10.7, I believe it was. Some passings, we've had 60 individuals pass, specifically because of the virus. Chino Valley, Wes mentioned earlier, in Chino, 77 documented cases, and in Chino Hills, 51 documented cases. And the age group that it seems to be spiking in at the moment is the 18 to 49 category, which is interesting compared to weeks ago when they were saying that those vulnerable was the older generation. But 18 to 49, when you look at the chart, it really peaks at the 18 to 49 category. The drive-through testings, they're more enhanced now. There's more of them, but Arrowhead Regional Hospital, which is the county hospital, has testing going on today and tomorrow, and from 8 to 4. So if you go on that email address or that website address that I provided, you'll get current information. And as Wes said about one that's taking place in Chino on Friday from 10 to 2, and I'm sure it'll go longer if necessary. An appointment is necessary, but on that particular one, they're not taking appointments until Thursday. So they always say details to come, but with Arrowhead Regional, you can go on the SB COVID-19 site and hopefully sign up if you need to go check things out even today at Arrowhead Regional. For the past week, I would say as a council member in Chino Hills and also as a member of Curt Hagman's staff here in Chino Hills, we're being asked, when are things going to loosen up? So that's kind of the news right now, and have had long talks with Curt about that. And he is saying, first of all, if everybody follows the guidelines of what he calls physical distancing and masks and doing everything that's been required as far as sanitation, things will move along much quicker, and it'll help the county supervisors make some decisions. Some of the decisions will be help be driven by the state, but also they can customize their own to some degree. And Curt and his team are looking into it. Even today, they're meeting. There's a Board of Supervisors meeting happening at 10 o'clock today, which you can log on to that also if you want to track the conversations going on. And I know there's a lot of pressure to open up certain things, mostly recreation driven. In Chino Hills, we've closed our trails, not our parks, but parking lots that access some of the trails. There's pressure, including from me, to open up those trails as soon as possible to get people out and about. and also maybe some golf courses. Many of the counties in the state have their golf courses open now. San Bernardino County doesn't quite yet, but things like that are being examined. So that the answer is I don't know when people call in what that answer is yet, but I think with some measure of just a sense of common sense, I think things will start to open up, but not to the degree that I think many people are hoping because the economy is hurting so bad. People want things open now, but we know the results, there'll be a rebound for sure. But I just know that Curt and his team are going to be basing a lot of this on data, as we've been hearing on TV from all the other decision makers. It's going to be data driven and science driven. When our numbers starting to flatten, instead of the curve still going up like this, when it starts to flatten, then I have a feeling that at least some common sense decisions will be made by the county supervisors, and things will start to open, but in phases. Just a side note for Chino Hills is that the city of Chino Hills had agreed to allow Ayers Hotel to be a host site for first responders who have been exposed to the virus. We haven't had a confirmation yet that we are going to be that host site, but we think it might happen. So that's just a heads up that it may or may not happen, but we think it might happen. So fire and police could be housed in the Ayers Hotel that have been exposed to individuals with the virus. So I think that's all I have for now. Willing to take questions. Again, as you said, Zeb, if I can't answer them, I will certainly get the answers for you. So you're on. Zeb, that's twice now.
I know, I did it again. So we have a question from Chris Kennedy from the city of Chino. He asked, does the 61 cases in CIM change the average age based on the average ages of those at CIM?
That I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Now, this is countywide. So the 61 out of 1,400, yeah, it's going to skew it, but the 61 or whatever the number is out of CIM, we're talking countywide numbers, not just Chino Valley numbers. But I'll try to find that out, but I don't know if they're going to be that specific.
Okay. And then on a just a question, a personal question I have. So you know, I'm involved in a lot of stuff in the golf industry. So I know that in Riverside County, it sounds like they opened it up today or tomorrow. I'm not quite sure by the emails that I got.
Yeah.
So that's looking like that's going to be something that's going to happen here in San Bernardino County.
We're hoping so. Curt's very aware of it. I'm hearing from the Kramer family of Los Serranos every day. They're providing me updates, and then I'm filtering that over to Curt and company. And I know Ventura County just did it. Riverside County either has done it or is seriously considering doing that right now with certain provisions in place as far as individual golf carts or walking and just other provisions that they'll have to follow. But there is a push to enhance more of the outdoor recreation. So that could be, if you do things in phases, I think that could be phase one. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think it could be a phase one. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then I just want to give an update on the stuff that your staff is, or the county supervisors team or San Bernardino County is doing. I mean, they have great resources available to their system. For the most part, we're taking, and this is also me not trying to speak out of turn, but also kind of just stating the stuff that I hear from the cities, is for the most part, our cities are taking the cues from the county. And so the county is kind of providing the guidelines as to what we're supposed to do in that context. And so they are doing a great job at informing and updating the residents of San Bernardino County about all that's happening. Curt's team in particular does a great job in sending out their press releases as far as here's all the stuff that's happening as it's happening. We're trying to consolidate that information and also share it. So on our coronavirus resource page, I definitely encourage you to check out San Bernardino County's. We're also taking that same information and sharing it with our audiences for the business community here in Chino Valley too. So definitely use that dashboard that they put together as a resource.
And I will pass that information on. I think there's more to come. I think there's going to be more spot videos taking place. I wanted to throw kudos out to Gil Cisneros' team, Stephanie and company. They've done an outstanding job of pumping information also. And I've heard that from multiple entities. So it's not just our experience as the city of Chino Hills or as the supervisor's office. We've heard from other people also. So kudos to Stephanie and team and for doing that also. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and on that note, I'll just throw some shout out that way too, is that they've been a huge advocate for business during this time.
Yeah.
So they've been supporting the PPP program, extending those trying to extend those programs, trying to open it up for more businesses and more nonprofits in our area to take advantage of those programs, and working with the insurance companies to try and solve issues that are arising from businesses and insurance agencies. So they've been doing a fantastic job in supporting business. So
Yep.
I agree with that for sure.
Well, thank you to everybody. And thank you, Zeb.
Hey, thank you, Peter, and thank you, Supervisor Curt Hagman. You guys have been great, so thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Sorry, let me remove this chat box. Okay. Next on our list is we have a late panelist arrival. So we were talking about Stephanie from Congressman Gil Cisneros' office. So Stephanie is here. So Stephanie, why don't you provide us your update from the U.S. Congressman Gil Cisneros' office?
Yeah, and so sorry to be late, Seb. And I'll say first and foremost, it's very nice of Peter Rogers. Thank you, Councilman. And I'll also say that the Congressman had a really good conversation with Supervisor Hagman the other day. And so the cooperation from our perspective has really been pretty seamless between the federal government, the county, and then the city of Chino Hills is, and Councilman Rogers knows is like just one of the best run cities in our district, if not the best run. So, we say all that, but at the same time, we know that people are really hurting. And so I don't want to be a Pollyanna. And I just want to give an update on probably the most frustrating part of our response, which has been really trying to get money to Main Street. And, that's really the small business administration loans. And so I want to tell people the latest update I have from my legislative director back in DC. The congressman is flying back today and expects to be voting tomorrow and latest on Thursday if there are any hangups. But everybody fully expects that they came to a deal last night, and they fully expect new funding to go forward for more stimulus funding in the SBA program, and that's a $500 billion package. $310 billion of that is slated for payroll protection program, which I think is probably the most important for our small businesses. And really significantly from our perspective, a big problem has been that a lot of that money went to the big banks. And there's a lot of controversy that the larger banks and larger lending institutions were only giving out to large clients that they had existing lines of credit with. And perhaps even that those fees were motivating the banks to operate in that fashion. The best actors we've seen so far in this, the ones that have been most helpful to our Main Street, to our real small businesses, have been credit unions. And so one of the most hopeful things that we like about the new deal that's gone forward is that it earmarks $60 billion for credit unions and other small lending institutions. We think that's going to make the funds more available for our community, which is really where we need it. It also, the deal that they agreed to last night also has $100 billion for hospitals and $25 billion for a testing program. But I'll say with all that and with those large numbers, I think they're almost talking about real money now. The anticipation is that they're going to need, this money is going to run out as well. In fact, the EIDL program, we understand, is already oversubscribed by several $100 billion. So everybody knows there's going to be need to be more funding. And along the way, my legislative director said that they're referring to this bill, the one that's just been agreed to add the $500 billion. They're referring to it as stimulus 3.5, meaning it's really addressing fixes in the third round of stimulus or funding in the third round of stimulus. But, there are still a lot of fixes that need to be done. The legislative director, Emma Norville, was a longtime appropriator with Steny Hoyer when he was, he's now the whip, but he was the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. So she was there from 2006 on and went through the 2008 recession. And she said her experience tracks fairly well, and that what we're doing right now is trying to get money and programs out as quickly as possible, and that down the road there are going to be lots and lots of fixes. So I'll just mention one of those. I know the congressman has a letter out. He's supporting a change to the stimulus bill that will allow chambers of commerce and other organizations that are organized as 501c6 corporations, that will allow them to access some of these funds as well, because we all know the great work that Zeb is doing and how valuable it is. But we need to make sure that chambers of commerce all across the country, they're an important part of our business infrastructure. They and other organizations need to be able to get this funding as well. So that's not in this bill. We're working on it. We're working with colleagues. We expect some legislation at some point soon in the future. And that's the sort of stuff we'll be working on going forward. And by the way, I'll just say it was Chambers of Commerce who brought that to our attention, both Zeb Welburn here and the Brea Chamber of Commerce, Javier Gallegos. They kind of came to us very early on and identified this need, which we hadn't even seen. So if there are other things we're not seeing, I'm about to put my email and phone in the chat box. And I hope people will reach out to me. A lot already have, and we'll just try and be as responsive as possible.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Peter's keeping count on me here.
Any questions for me? I didn't see anything, but.
Yeah, no, I just really want to thank you guys for what you're doing to support small business. We have, there is big challenges, especially with that PPP funding running out. That's going to be a big challenge for the businesses here in our area. I know that we've gotten to a lot of calls on that where they haven't either secured the fund and there's uncertainty of whether or not they're going to receive those. And so we had a lot of businesses apply, and I know that we have a lot of more that are potentially wanting to apply. And even for a lot of our businesses and that we communicate with on a regular basis that are attendees or kind of the sole proprietors, those types of businesses. And those ones couldn't even apply until the 10th. And then very shortly after it was out of funding. So I know that there's a lot of challenges we're facing there too.
The PPP and the EIDL, it's our greatest hope, but it's also our greatest frustration at the moment. And we're just trying to get that right, but it's going to take a while, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and you guys have been communicating really well, and I know that you guys have been working hard to streamline that process. So that's just very appreciative from all of us. We have a question from Jim who says, any word from the congressman how widespread our testing may be as we return to some semblance of normalcy?
I haven't gotten any communication from the office on that specifically, but I'll try and get back to Jim in the chamber with a specific answer to it. I'll talk to the legislative director today, but it's not an issue I've been personally involved with, so I really couldn't answer. But thanks for the question, Jim.
Okay, good. And I think we have a couple of questions for Peter, and maybe this is also for you, Stephanie, which you might be able to answer. So one of the questions that we asked in the chat, which Peter responded to in the chat, but I want to ask for everybody's edification was, what qualifies someone to get tested? If they're going to the testing site, how would they qualify that person to be able to get tested?
Right, and the way I understand it now, since there's more test kits available, is that if you're feeling the typical symptoms, as I typed to Jim a few moments ago, then that might be enough. But I think, first of all, you should go through your traditional healthcare provider first and talk to your doctor or your doctor's office. And then if not, then sign up for the testing. And I think I haven't heard of people being rejected once they're in line. I don't know if I haven't gone on to see what the questions are when you sign up. I had to try to do that actually, but I believe you'll be able to be tested if there's a question mark.
Okay, and then we have another question from Tyra Weiss. She's an elementary teacher in I think Pomona and Chino, and she lives in Chino and she works in Pomona. Are there any thoughts regarding plans to support reopening of schools? I mean, is that a conversation we're having right now?
On the county side of things, there is no conversation. I'm not in the inner circle for the county, for Curt and his colleagues, but I haven't heard Ted Alejandre or anybody talk about that as a possibility, especially with a month and a half or so to go with traditional closure of the school year.
Yeah.
I haven't
Just
heard that. I
offer
think
that-
that's a vulnerable group right there, not sick-wise per se, but just, kids. We know kids, and you only do it from high school on, or because the young ones are going to be all over each other, and if there's any germs to be had, they're going to be bringing them home. But I've heard nothing on that. I think every school district is starting to tell their teachers and their parents, your school year at a traditional site is now over.
Yeah, one of the things that we got an update from Chaffey College, so it's not quite this Chino Valley Unified School District system, but Chaffey College, I know that summer programs are going to be all virtual and online, and same thing about fall. Fall programs are going to be virtual and online too. And then we have a couple more, which was any progress on temporary payment of covered California subsidies being raised to 100%? It's my second biggest expense after rent. Not quite sure if I'm phrasing that correctly. Maybe our next speaker can handle that one. So we'll ask that one next. When will COVID antibody testing be available to see if we had the virus in the past few months?
What I know, it's any time. A friend of mine is a doctor, a medical director in Orange County, and he got his hands on 1,000 kits. Sometime they're being delivered to him sometime this week. So I can only go up from personal experience with my friend Greg. But I think if they're not here already, they're about to be here in mass numbers.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Peter. Next, we're going to move on to our next panelist. So our next panelist is the Executive Vice President and General Counsel at California Chamber of Commerce, Erika Frank. Erika, are you there? You're on mute this time. Oh, there you go.
There you go. Thank you. Yes, thanks. And thank you, everyone. And thank you for having me this morning. It's been really encouraging to hear some of the good information coming out. It was refreshing to hear that we might have some more funding for the PPP, because I know that that's a huge issue for a lot of our employers out there. So it's been a wild ride, I think, for all of us. At the Chamber, we not only have an advocacy arm, but we also have a human resource compliance arm where we help our businesses with all of the various labor and employment laws and regulations and whatnot. And I can tell you that once this started hitting California and we started to see localities hitting shelter-in-place ordinances, our labor law helpline was ringing off the hook, and it's everything that you read about, from do we do a layoff, do we do a furlough, how can we keep our employees on the payroll without having to pay, can we keep them with health insurance? And it's been really heartbreaking to hear some of the struggles that employers are going through, and so it's encouraging to hear that some of that relief is still going to possibly continue to come, because with the PPP it allows those employers to keep their employees and keep them in business. As we started to see a lot of the issues unfold, as you can imagine, there's an array of labor and employment laws that can be gotchas or have gotchas that can get employers into trouble. And one of those that came to surface quickly on is California has a WARN Act that has to do with mass reduction. So when you have mass layoffs, employers are required to provide a 60-day WARN notice. Federal law has one, but they have an exception that the COVID-19 falls under that basically then says employers don't have to follow the federal WARN, but they do under California. Naturally, there was no 60-day advance notice that employers could provide. It was one day we were operating and the next day we were either shutting down or conducting these mass layoffs. So Cal Chamber, through their advocacy side, we were able to work with the governor's office and let them know that there is a concern and employers would be faced with significant fines, up to including 60 days of full pay wages to their employees for not following the 60-day WARN notice. So that's where we got the executive order from the governor several weeks ago that relaxed the WARN Act notice requirement. What it basically did is it took away the 60-day notice requirement and said that the notice needs to be given as soon as foreseeable, so whenever the employee knows that these mass layoffs are going to have to happen. In addition, the contents of the notice is a little bit different than what's traditionally required. So that is all available on the DLSC website. That's the Labor Commissioner's website that has a lot of the information. And on Cal Chamber's website, calchamber.com, We put together a resource page that we're doing our best to stay updated, because as you can imagine, with technology, it's fantastic that we can get all sorts of information, but it's sorting through the information and staying up to speed. So we've been doing our best to make sure it's updated, and we do have a sample warn notice that employers can use as well if they're in that bucket of conducting those mass layoffs and reductions in force. As we've seen the numbers start to be more positive as it relates to the COVID-19 numbers, and we are starting to hear throughout the nation of when are we going to get to go back to work, and there was some discussion about that this morning as well. We're starting to see some of the dialogue shifting to how can we safely get employers to be able to open their doors and to have employees coming back to the work. And the governor last week discussed his plan. He did form an economic advisory committee, and the CEO and president of the California Chamber of Commerce, Alan Zerberg, is part of that group, and we are in the process of compiling information to send over to the governor's office as far as what are the impacts the COVID shelter-in-place orders have had on businesses, what are the concerns that businesses have as far as getting their employees back, how can we make our workplaces safe, recognizing that there isn't a one-size-fits-all, recognizing that this is going to be a slow and gradual process, and I think we've all heard that before, and we've even talked about it today. There's lots of discussion. Do you test the workers? Do you provide the masks? You know, there's different industries that have different requirements, and different health departments of health that are also issuing their different orders. On Friday, the governor issued an executive order to provide supplemental sick leave. This is supplemental, up to 80 hours of supplemental paid sick leave. It's narrowly tailored to employers in the food sector industry with 500 or more employees, and it's specific to those food sector employees. This is to fill what he described as the gap that was left by the federal Families First Coronavirus Relief Act. That is what the federal government had passed several weeks ago, that provides sick leave and extended FMLA to employees who work for employers with 500 or less employees. So the governor is continuing to recognize that there is concern here in the state and needing to provide that sick leave to those employers that did fall under the federal. So we are still getting a number of calls from employers about how do we do all of this? How does it all work? What are some of the things that we need to be careful about? There's new notices. The federal sick leave did include a notice, so hopefully employers are aware and have it in their workplace. As far as the legislature is concerned, they have recessed until they are coming back in May. There have been some budgetary hearings. As we know, the May revise that came in January, as the governor has said, is going to be completely rewritten. We know that our fiscal situation is a lot different today than it existed back in January when the May revise was discussed. So we will see what that new budget looks like. We'll see what the legislature decides to do as far as what bills to address, which ones not to address. We've missed quite a bit of committee deadlines that are normally in place during a normal session. So we'll have to wait and see what happens when the legislature comes back.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Erika.
Sure.
Maybe you can answer this question, and forgive me if I'm phrasing it wrong. I'm just taking text that's in our chat box and trying to make the most sense of it as I can. So the question was, is there any progress on temporary payment of covered California subsidies being raised to 100%?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer is I haven't heard of anything. Covered California is the state subsidized healthcare insurance portal, if you will. It's a place that a lot of employees have gone to since they've lost coverage due to a layoff or termination from their employment. I have not heard of any effort to provide 100% premium payment to those individuals.
And then we have another question is what are the services that are on track to be reintroduced into the economy? I know that the governor came out with phases. Do you have a brief synopsis?
Yeah, I wish I had a crystal ball for all of this. You know, the governor hasn't really given us much indication about what industries he's going to start releasing in. You know, if you look at the president's outline with the 3 phases, some other localities, and just recently in the news this morning, a number of other states are starting to open up. Some are starting with the cosmetology industry, the hospitals. I don't know yet, but hopefully we'll hear soon. And that was part of the Economic Advisory Committee and its purpose of being formed.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. I really want to thank you and Cal Chamber for the work that you guys are doing. So like of our resources, I mean, we're using all the folks that are bringing in for a Chino Valley Leaders webinar. So all the resources that Cal Chamber is providing, we're trying to distill that and share that with businesses through the Chino Valley. Same thing with the U.S. Chamber, same thing with the County of San Bernardino, same thing with Gil Cisneros' office and our other elected officials. Whenever we get those little pieces of information that's designed to help business, we're compiling that in our coronavirus resource page. So you guys have been doing great work, and we've reached out, just so that you guys know, is we've reached out on multiple occasions to work with Cal Chamber. Another thing that Stephanie brought up was we're trying to get the chambers to be included in that PPP loan program. Mostly because a lot of chambers, like we're in a fortunate situation in the Chino Valley, is we're not overly concerned about the success of the chamber as a whole. But there's a lot of chambers that are on the verge of shutting their doors, and we want to make sure that we help those chambers continue to be advocates for business and support Cal Chamber as well in the work that they're doing to continue to advocate for businesses and trying to make sure that we're doing the best we can to support those businesses, because that's how those loans get funded, is by the work that these folks are doing, and to push on our legislators to make sure that they're providing those funds for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. And then I've got so let me just check my Facebook, make sure we don't have any other comments or questions there. Okay, thank you so much, Erika. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So our next speaker, I got to give a little introduction on this one because we have a little bit of a history together. So my son, he's 4 years old, and we had him play in his first T-ball game a couple days ago. I'm a coach on that T-ball team, so I had him play. He only got in one game before the coronavirus shut it down. So he got his T-ball experiences of one game so far. When I was in T-ball, so some 35 years ago, I had a coach, and my coach is our next panelist today. Chris Kleibacker he was my Little League coach all through the time I played Little League. And was also my master teacher when I went and taught at Ayala High School for a brief period. And Chris Kleibacker is currently a teacher at Ayala High School, and he wants to get, I sent out an update on Twitter. We're trying to get Randy Mack, who is an ABC correspondent on consumer affairs, and so he was going to handle that. Chris chimed in and thought he wanted to give a perspective on what it's like for teachers currently dealing with the coronavirus pandemic. I feel like it would be a good opportunity to educate all of you on how teachers are handling this and how they're doing it. So, Chris, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for that introduction. Good seeing you, bud. First of all, I just want to let you know that as a former member of the chamber, I have been pushing since this whole thing began with the community to support local businesses. I understand you can order everything online now, but as I tell people, that if all you do is buy online, then we're not going to have these businesses around when we come out of this. So I think it's critically important that we all do our best to support the local businesses that we can with our own framework. Okay. Now, to answer a couple of questions. So first of all, I want to give props to the Chino Valley Unified School District. These guys, we got notified on March 13th, Friday at 2 o'clock that they were going to shut down. We didn't know for how long or whatnot, but the following week, the March 16th, they had technology people out at all the schools, getting us all teachers up, running on Google Classroom. I was impressed, okay? I mean, it was almost seamless. It wasn't completely seamless, but it was pretty much there. So now, obviously at the secondary level, at the high school level, we're doing a lot of things differently than they do at the grade school level. So I can't really talk about what they do at the grade school level. Couple of things, though, questions were asked. Number one, yes, we are closed for the rest of the year. We are going to do nothing but online. Okay, summer school will be online. All right. Now the question begs, what's going to happen starting next school year in August when we come back? Well, we're still formulating plans. In fact, we're going to have a staff meeting today at 2:30, and we'll probably be updated on what's going to be happening next school year. But for right now, we're done. Okay, it's all going to be all online. So I want to just express to all the parents and the students in the Chino Valley Unified School District, make sure they're on their students, their teachers' webpage. If you have any questions, email your teachers. If you have technology issues, talk to your principals, talk to the district. I know several of my students needed, hotspots. They needed iPads. The district has been doing that for them. So as far as I know, I have all of my 160 seniors basically are communicating with me. We're doing online assignments, and we are told by Dr. Normanfield is that we're going to be very sensitive when it comes to grading. Okay, we're not trying to give them massive amounts of work. Okay, but we need for them to complete the assignments to make sure they're ready for next year. Okay, and then as a senior teacher, obviously my heart goes out to these young kids. They're going to have a virtual graduation. Mr. Enfield has placed things in place, and the kids will be doing that. I know it's not going to be a walk and grab your diploma type graduation, which is, we're kind of a rite of passage. But Dr. Enfield said that if something happens later in the summer, they might come back and actually have a walking ceremony. But for right now, it's going to be all virtual, okay, for the seniors. For all the other students now and the parents, I know I hear a lot from my parents, that are struggling with their students to get them, help them at home. So all I can ask you to do is just coordinate with your teachers, email us. I have two computers, I'm on one laptop here. I got another one in my corner, plus a hard drive, and I'm here like 6-7 hours a day communicating with my students, giving them assignments, grading those assignments. But again, as far as I know, the teachers are communicating with their students. And if you have any questions, just please, if you can't get a hold of your teacher, then get a hold of your principal, their staff, their administrative staff is still at the schools. So they are managing administrative staff at the schools. Basically, I just want to encourage you to do that and encourage the kids to keep up with their assignments. I know it's a little bit frustrating, but in the long run, it's going to be for the best.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. How is the correspondence between you and students directly? Are you doing a lot of these like Zoom type meetings and doing that on a daily basis? Is that what it's looking like?
Yeah, some teachers are, Zeb. The problem was when we set up Google Classroom. Okay, now I'm dealing with teenagers, and I guarantee you, at 7:30 in the morning when my first class is, I have government this semester. I'm not going to have too many students show up for my Zoom class at 7:30. Okay, so that was my thinking, but I went another direction, mainly because after communicating with most of my students, they get up anywhere from 10 to 12. Okay, so, if I'm going to have any Zoom classes, they're going to have to start at noon, I think. So I have been kind of backing off that and giving them assignments. And again, we have direct communications through email with our students. And again, Google Classroom is an absolutely marvelous platform. As students present their work, I will get an email on my district email that the student has placed the work. I can view the work. I can look at their submission, I can grade it, and then get it right back to him within, say, 10-15 minutes. So in that case, it's very efficient. The kids get updated immediately. And again, if there's any communication problems, we try to iron that out. Had one, we lost track of a student. I've just got noticed this morning on an email, and I just sent that student an email. And, again, not sure what's happening. The great thing is, as teachers, I've had my students for 6 months. I know my kids. If I had to do this from cold, meaning I had brand new students without having worked with them in classroom for 6 months, this would be an extremely difficult task. But at this point, I pretty much know my kids. And so far, everything's going well.
Well, how are you able to collaborate with other teachers?
That is the issue, and one of the things they ask us to do is, especially with students, do not have any collaborative projects. with students. It's all individual, okay? But just yesterday, every Monday morning we meet with the department meets. We met yesterday with the social science department meeting. We're coordinating that with the teachers on where we are. Right now, obviously, the emphasis on those AP teachers is the AP test coming up. And again, it's going to be very abbreviated online, but that's where the emphasis is. Obviously, the standardized testing for the state of California is off the books this year. Okay, so all those tests, SAT tests and the pre-SAT tests are all going to be postponed for right now. So we're trying to de-emphasize testing, just get coursework done, okay, and then finish out the year this way, and then figure out what we're going to do next.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. And I'm not sure.
Appreciate it, Zeb.
I'm not sure if I thanked you for all the years of coaching, but thank you for stepping up and doing that. Now that I know what it takes.
Well, it comes full circle to you, bud. And thank you for picking up the baton and coaching your kids and other kids too.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. All right. So with that, I want to thank all of our panelists. So panelists, you guys did a fantastic job. Thank you for giving those updates. We have there's more comments that are put together in our comments section. So there's a lot of resources that are compiled there from all of the different agencies that we have represented. And for those that jumped on the call late, I'll just kind of give a brief update on those that are in attendance in our chat. So we have representatives from the City of Chino, the Building Industry Association, from Chino Valley Fire, from the City of Chino Hills, from the Chino Hills Police Department, our Census Bureau, the U.S. Census Bureau. So we have those kind of represented in our chat, and so they're trying to provide updates in the chat feature as well. So even if our panelists have provided great information, we also have great information in our chat area. This is also an opportunity for me to just let you guys all know what's coming up from the chamber world as well, some of the things we put together. So just as a reminder, I know I don't want to go too overboard on this, but I want to hit the fact that we have on our website, we have our coronavirus update page. We're updating that about 3 times a week. So 3 times a week, that's fully updated with all of the latest resources that are coming from all of the agencies that we've had here as panelists. So that's on the homepage of our website. We put together a Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce resource page. So for restaurants, we put together a restaurants offering takeout and delivery services in Chino and Chino Hills. So that is on the homepage of our website. We also recently on Friday, I put up a Facebook group of the same name. So it's called Chino Valley Takeout and Delivery Options Amid COVID-19. That one already has about 300 participants in that group. So if you are a restaurant or you're connected with the restaurants, it's a good way to just showcase the restaurants that are offering services and say, here, I got this delivery from so-and-so, share a picture with it, let people know that you're picking up food from our local restaurants. Like Chris mentioned earlier, we really want to support local business and make sure that they're there so that when we do come out of this, we have places to go out to eat. We have also on the page, we created another link for businesses that are still in operation in the Chino Valley. So that is also set up there on the homepage of our website. So you have those 3 different resources and our group, our Facebook group that is promoting that delivery and takeout services. Tomorrow, we're having our business at breakfast, which we do every Wednesday from 7:45 to 9. Tomorrow is going to be me speaking. I'm going to be talking about how you can leverage the chamber during this time to get the most out of your chamber membership. So that'll just be some tips and tools and tactics on ways that we as a chamber can help support our businesses in addition to the stuff that I just mentioned. But there's going to be an opportunity to connect and network and work with other folks to help impact your business. So there'll be some assignments that we're going to do in the live setting tomorrow. So that's from 7:45 to 9. So I encourage you to be there for that. I did have some requests via text message to announce a couple of things, so I'll share that as well. City Council member for Chino Hills, Cynthia Moran, sent me this, which is their Saturday food drive. So they're asking for donations for the food collection drive for the Chino Hills community. There's a drive-through and drop-off donations on Saturday, April 25th from 8 a.m. to noon at Los Serranos Golf Course. With that, this is going to be up on YouTube. So we're going to post this on YouTube. It usually takes me, actually today I have a lot of appointments throughout the day, so it probably will be either at the end of the day today or early tomorrow. But it will be up on YouTube at some point, so I'll be sure to share that through our social media channels and through our email system. So if you're not on our emails, if you're not following us on social media, you should. you're not subscribing to us on YouTube, you should. And then the other thing is we did set up a Twitter account, and that's how I'm starting to get some of these connections with some other agencies as well. So that's a new thing. We just set up our Twitter account. So I want to thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Erika. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Stephanie, for joining us today and providing those updates. Our community really appreciates it. So thank you. And thank you, everybody, for attending, and I hope you all have a great day.